screaming, "Barbara, get me out of this place. They've stolen my diamond ring." I quickly got dressed, ordered a cab, arrived at the facility, went up to his room, searched every drawer, corner, trash can, etc. No diamond ring. I went downstairs, had the head gal ransack the room herself. Most elderly people misplaced dentures, keys, lots of things. But after 45 minutes, no ring turned up, and my dad was heartbroken. He had the ring for years, no insurance, it was so old. It was a part of his fingers. He never removed them, but upon the insistence of the caregivers, he removed both rings. They denied handling the diamond ring ever. My father became suspect of the caregivers and refused care from them. One day I went to visit him, and the room had an odor of feces in it. So I called the head of the floor, and he pulled down the sheets and found that the sheets had not been changed. He found out that the sheets had not been changed in a week. He stripped the bed himself and met with the caregivers to correct the situation. Now, this place was $5,000 per month, private pay for dirty sheets. This facility has a nursing agency and provides physical therapists. So my sister and I agreed to have a therapist visit and do exercises with our dad. My father asked me why she was visiting so often. She wasn't doing too much to help him in the way of exercising. She kept having him sign all these exercise orders, so that she could bill the insurance company. One Friday afternoon, I saw her give my dad 5 sheets of paper to sign for exercise he did not receive, and I released her of any future sessions. What a racket. As time went on, I noticed lots of strange occurrences. Waitresses serving dinner, same changing diapers, administering medicines at mealtime without gloves, etc. What kind of bullshit is this? All private pay. Of course, my dad was not a recipient of these meds. I was giving him homeopathic medicine privately. No one could get over how handsome and strong Maxie was. No one cares about what I have to say. My sister called local TV investigators, talked to 2 producers, and never received a call back. I called another local TV station twice. No one returned the call. No one cares about senior citizens. All they care about is being sued by pharmaceutical houses, the networks, advertisers. It's all bullshit. The audacity of the receptionist saying that there may be no interest. How can you promote investigative reporting without knowing what the story is all about? I told her I wanted to speak to the lead anchor. She jumped back at me. What's he going to do for you? He's not an investigator. What about all the awards that are given for journalism? What is this all about? No one cares. No one cares about the elderly, healthcare. Where does all the money go? Maxie, 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 was all this worth it? Your bus ride into town so you could have your hair cut at the beauty school. I'll never hear your strong, powerful voice again. My phone is not ringing in the middle of the night anymore, and I'll never see your handsome face again. And my dad was quite handsome. Who locally can I discuss homeopathic medicine with? I can only discuss it with Dr. Deacon in London. As time went by, my sister and I visited 2 orthopedic surgeons. Quite respectable, we had been told. Both doctors agreed that Maxie was definitely a good candidate for the surgery, but had to have clearance from a cardiologist. Based on the heart catheterization administered in the 90s, both cardiologists said my dad's heart was horrible and that he would die on the operating table, based on that 90s heart catheterization. One of the 2 surgeons was concerned that he would wind up having a malpractice suit served him in case my father were to die. They agreed he was entitled to a chance to walk again, but both refused to help him. We went to visit my sister's cardiologist, the 3rd one, who upon interviewing and examining Daddy would sanction the surgery, hallelujah, as long as I would allow him to give Dad a pacemaker. I called Dr. Deacon in London, discussed the pacemaker surgery, because no other surgeon would operate on him and give him a permanent hip replacement because of his age. Maxie, as I told you earlier, had lost 2 inches off the length of his right leg due to this break in his hip. Was walking on the patched hip and was determined to walk and dance the tango again. And as I showed you that photograph of Daddy with Lillian Roth, very, very famous singer, he was an unbelievable dancer. He learned how to do the tango with his buddies in Hollywood, Clark Gable, Wallace Beery, George Raft. My father was something else, believe me. Okay, I called Dr. Deacon in London, discussed the pacemaker surgery because no other surgeon would operate on him due to his age. Okay. An orthopedic surgeon from another institute examined my father and said that he was a perfect candidate, even at 98 years of age, because Daddy was strong. I'm sitting in my father's chair in a studio apartment next door to me, and the silence is deafening. This is where Dad died 18 days ago. The surgery went beautifully. They placed a wire in Dad's neck the same evening the hip replacement was done, inserted the pacemaker the following day, and Maxie survived all of this. While in the hospital for his hip replacement, Maxie developed thrush from the antibiotics. One afternoon, my dad told me they couldn't remove his upper denture. My sister was with me. The RN put so much adhesive in his mouth. Joni was with me. It took the RN 15 minutes to remove the upper denture along with a plate. She ripped the entire top layer of skin from the roof of his mouth. Poor Maxie. The roof of his mouth was bleeding. I gave him several doses of arnica, Montana, for bruising and bleeding. And the healing process began. Such skilled RNs. Again, we went back to the Wynwood facility for physical therapy. This is the process that you have to go through. After you're in the hospital, you have to go to a facility. And then it's so much horseshit. One Sunday afternoon, I watched in horror as one of the caregivers went to the sink in Dad's room. The dirty water was backing up. The caregivers put some soap on the paper wash rag and went to clean my father's backside. I said, "Hold it. What do you think you're doing?" I told her to call maintenance and have them snake the sink drain. The maintenance man arrived and said they had a snake on order and it would have to wait until during the week. I said, "You're not going to touch my father with this filthy water." I told them they had better not. That they had better go to the hardware store to get a snake, or I would have every TV station in the health department down there to observe the caregivers. The filthy water backed up in the sinks with particles of filth floating around that they wanted to wash my father's ass with. Within 1/2 hour, they snaked the drain and replaced the pipes underneath with witnesses galore. I had every visitor on the floor in that room. During our stay there, I asked to speak to the doctors who were in charge of Dad's care. No one responded. After repeated requests, I asked for the phone number of the head of the local medical society, a cocky bastard at that. I called him and told him about what unsanitary health conditions we had encountered. He already knew that we were homeopaths and told me if we didn't like the conditions there and if I didn't stop administering the so-called unorthodox, they call homeopathic remedies unorthodox. What do they call the shit that they feed the public? Homeopathic remedies to Maxie. I would be asked to leave his, if I didn't stop administering these medications, the homeopathic pills to my father, I would be asked to leave his so-called orthodox facility. I chose to take Maxie back to the assisted living facility. They had a physical therapist that seemed competent, but I noticed he was pushing Maxie to perform a bit too much. My sister and I started to hear a rattle in Dad's chest. He began spitting up blood-tinged mucus. The caregiver said it was probably pudding or jello mixed with phlegm, and that he probably just had a cold. But as the week progressed, I noticed a lot of blood showing up on the carpet in his little apartment, his clothing, his bed sheets, etc. Everyone said he was hyperventilating. This coming week, there were meetings scheduled away from the facility, and only one nurse was on the second floor, an RN, where Maxie resided. I arrived there at approximately 9:30 a.m., followed my dad to the elevator, watched in horror as he made a left turn headed towards the staircase, the imposing center staircase. Had I not been there, he would have gone directly down and been killed instantly. I yelled, and the RN, the only other person on that floor, came out and ordered a chairside x-ray. Within 25 minutes, the x-ray was taken. 1/2 hour later, the RN came in and said the results had to be faxed in. The findings, Maxie had congestive heart failure and pneumonia, and that the ambulance would be picking him up immediately to take him to the hospital. So, you talk about misdiagnoses. He didn't have pudding or jello-tinged mucus coming out of his mouth. It was blood. And guess who authorized his admittance to the hospital? The same doctor whose care my late father, E. Maxie Sornoff, was under at that facility. He made stops. He made pit and stops once a week to visit all the residents there. How come he didn't notice that he had congestive heart failure and pneumonia for 2 weeks? While in the hospital, my father was given huge amounts of antibiotics. He seemed to be getting better insofar as the pneumonia and congestive heart failure were concerned. But unfortunately, Daddy wasn't able to eat anymore.